Okay, cool. All right, welcome again to, I'm just going to commence now. We are 2 minutes past 10. I'm just going to commence. Today we're basically covering Microsoft Teams, but before we dive into today's topic, I'd like to go through the house rules. Please let me know if there's too much background noise or if there's any interference on your side. Give me a second. There we go. Cool. On my side, again, my name is Lebo from Solid Systems. Those of you who have been in these webinars before will be very familiar with how and why we are basically having these webinars. They're primarily designed to add the most value out of the products that you're currently using, those products being Microsoft products. Just a recap of the previous topics that we've had. The first topic was highlighted or covering Microsoft multi-factor authentication. After multi-factor authentication, we also dived into OneDrive Protect. That transitioned into SharePoint as well as OneDrive. And again, through today's session, I'll show you briefly how it all integrates, as well as how it all ties into today's topic, which is Microsoft Teams through integration with SharePoint. That being said, house rules again, please, we encourage you guys to show faces. It's nice to see people's reactions. And in Teams today, what we're covering is different types of views that you can see, different types of features you can enabling in to make sure that you feel more comfortable in terms of switching on your video. Please, yeah, I can see, which is great. A lot of people already have their mics muted. A feature that I also wanted to highlight from my side is spotlighting. So I'm going to just go ahead and spotlight myself. Cool. I should be nice and big in the middle of your screen over there. Yeah, there we go. Cool. That being said, yeah, we're going to be covering those features in Microsoft Teams. I'd like to make this this session as interactive as possible. I'm going to illustrate or ask a couple of questions which will require a minimum amount of input from your side. In this case, any question I ask, 1 will be yes and 0 will be no. And that will give me an indication of your understanding of the session and also what I need to tackle without having to go into too much depth. And at the end of the session, you'll obviously receive an email from my side in terms of a summary of today's topic, as well as a rating at the bottom of the signature over there. Please do take, it literally takes 5 seconds to click on a link between 1 to 5 just to give me feedback. As we always say, finally, feedback is food for champions, and I can only grow if I know where I need to grow. That being said, today's topic is Microsoft Teams. That is going hand in hand with the topic we discussed last week, which was SharePoint and OneDrive. And what I'll be covering and illustrating today is how you basically can live within Teams. Before we dive in, through the comments section over there in your Microsoft Teams, it should be on the top right next to your participants. I just want to switch to my headsets actually because I'm hearing too much background noise over here. And again, that's another nice thing where in this instance, with the few click of a few buttons, I'm sure on your side, the quality has improved as well. And I'll also be going into showing you how to customize your devices and how to change from specific audios to enhance or improve your audio quality. I see a hand is raised there from Doris. Please unmute your mic and proceed to ask your question. Okay, cool. All right, sweet. All right, in this case, I'm going to proceed to share my screen. But before I share my screen, again, in the comment section, I just want to get an indication of how many people understand the topic that we are covering and addressing today, which is Microsoft Teams. In the comment section, 1 being yes and 0 being no, do you know what Microsoft Teams is? I'm seeing a lot of ones, which is great. In this case, it obviously highlights the fact that a lot of you have basically adopted and integrated with the new norm, which is video conferencing and video calling. Personally, I prefer the in touch. So if it was, I'd probably try to organize the session to be an in-depth or a more personal approach. Okay, cool. Which the good news today, um, highlighting or coming from previous days, is the fact that everyone has responded and said one, which that basically indicates that they do know what Microsoft Teams is. All right. That being said, today we'll be diving into how to use Microsoft Teams more efficiently. What we found and what I've highlighted or illustrated in previous sessions, that a lot of people use the bare basics of most, if not all, Microsoft products. What we'll be covering in next week's session, or the next session, would be what we call the Microsoft periodic table, which will give you an illustration of how many products Microsoft has and how many products you are licensed for and how to use those products. That being said, let me continue to share my screen and walk you through a small presentation that I've put together in terms of what Microsoft Teams is and the features that it has. So the first feature, which is what I'm going to be using now, is actually screen sharing. What I will do is that I'll share the screen on the other screen as well, so that you can see what I'm seeing when I do share my screen. But in this instance, I'm just sharing it so that you can see screen on Teams on my other screen. So what I'm going to do is take you through these tabs, which will give you an indication of the features that are included in Microsoft Teams. First one being, so the focus now is on our left. A lot of people have a lot of noise going on within and inside Microsoft Teams. The best way I keep up personally, first thing I do in the morning, I come in, I click on activity. In activity, you'll get a notification of any mentions and any emails or any messages that was basically sent in Teams. Actually, for the purpose of this exercise, I want to use my Teams. It's got a little bit more juice and information inside it. So in this case, if I click on activity, what you will see is any and all activity which has happened within Microsoft Teams since the last time you engaged or opened your Microsoft Teams. We'll touch on that a little bit later. Inside chats, pretty straightforward. One thing I must highlight is that Microsoft is trying its best to ensure that they make anything they do seamless and integrated. What I mean by that is that they're currently in the process of trying to phase out Skype. And as a result of trying to phase out Skype, they want to integrate it and ensure that you get the same and the best experience through Microsoft Teams. So again, on the left here, we'll get activity, and then you'll get your chats where you can chat with your individual colleagues, or you can chat in a group, or you can literally off the cuff, you can literally call a specific individual through audio, or you can call them through a video call. Or in this case, if I was calling one individual person, I can also add an additional participant within the same call or the same chat, for instance. And in this case, another lovely feature which I love when it comes to Microsoft Teams, especially considering the fact that a lot of people now are working remotely, is the fact that it can show you someone's status. And as you can see, my colleague Ngobi is currently in the same call with us. And that being said, it's showing his status, which basically shows you that he's on a call, as opposed to in back in the day when we're using handsets or anything like that, you'd be sitting in a situation where you try and call and you get a busy tone or whatever the case, or the person might not respond if you guys have a switchboard. That being said, in this instance, you can see their status, and you can also set your own status or customize the status. For instance, within our organization, we basically in front of our machines most of the time, but we obviously need to at some point either leave your desk to use the restroom or take your lunch break or whatever the case may be. You can set a custom message which basically lets people know
where your current status is. In an instance where you're away from your teams or your teams is closed, the status will change to away in this instance. But again, there's default settings that you might have in here. As you can see, I'm currently presenting to you guys, and it's showing that I am presenting. And the nice thing I also love about it is that it's in real time. So anything that happens within Teams, anything that happens within a call, it happens in real time, which is great. We'll move further down onto the next tab, which is Teams. Teams, our teams will probably look very, very different to how your team looks like, because we have a fully adopted Microsoft Teams and we live inside Microsoft Teams. That being said, we are sitting in a situation where our Microsoft Teams is linked to our SharePoint sites. What do I mean by that? These two teams that you see on here are groups that are existing in our Microsoft suite. So there we have an operations group, we have a teams group. Within those groups, there are folders. Those folders are called channels. What do I mean by channels? These are subfolders which exist and the people within this operations group have access to. Well, again, we'll touch base on that when I show you how SharePoint integrates to Microsoft Teams. And another nice feature is calendar. This integrates 100% and very well with your Microsoft Outlook calendar, where what you see on your Outlook calendar will reflect onto here as well. The nice thing about this as well is something I want to show you from this calendar over here. In this instance, if you had an appointment scheduled now, you don't have to go try look for a link. You don't have to go try find the link in your emails. You can simply open your Microsoft Teams application, click join. You'll get put into the same meeting. One of those small features. Again, we'll touch on that when we unpack how to create calendar entries and Microsoft Team invites from your calendar as well as the Teams app. This feature over here is calls. As I mentioned, they're trying to integrate Microsoft Teams to, they're trying to basically slowly get rid of Skype to integrate it to Microsoft Teams. That being said, Skype has a nice feature where you can call someone's mobile phone. Microsoft Teams does have that feature, but you'll need to contact your system administrator to basically enable that feature. It's called the PSTN calling feature, where it's basically you need a network provider to route your calls. This we won't spend too much time on, primarily because this Microsoft team, basically a lot of people today are using data to call as opposed to minutes. I'll show you that when you come back to chats and how you can basically chat to external people. And then files. This speaks directly to Microsoft SharePoint. Microsoft Teams is a platform which is primarily used for instant messaging and all that. But if somebody sends you a file, I'm referring to, if I were to go back to chats, but I'll show you that now. If somebody sends you a file, if somebody sends you a video, if somebody sends you anything that needs to be stored somewhere, this is where Microsoft SharePoint plays a huge role. Because when it comes to Microsoft SharePoint, you'll be sitting in a situation where anything you get that gets sent to you or you send to someone sits on your SharePoint directory. That being said, I'll just click on these three dots over here and then give you an illustration of how many features that Microsoft Teams has. If for any instance or any organization that has additional CRMs, you'll find that Microsoft has tried its best to partner up with a lot of organizations or a lot of partners to add the most value and keep you within the same platform, which is Microsoft Teams. Some CRMs require add-ons. Some CRMs require you to purchase additional softwares on all of that. Microsoft gives you the feature to build your CRM into this platform. Please excuse me for a second. And in this instance, you can search for an application or you can click on more apps. When you click on more apps, there's a feature which a lot of companies use, which is Microsoft Dynamics. And again, the nice thing about Microsoft Teams is the fact that you can literally search for anything, whether it's a person, whether it's an application, whether it's again, a third-party application that you're trying to integrate within Microsoft Teams. Again, if there's any questions, please feel free to comment in the comment section or raise your hand and I'll give you the spotlight to basically voice out your questions or comments. So that's just a little bit in terms of the additional features that Microsoft Team has and that it can do. So going back to the top down. So we basically going through the Microsoft Teams applications and what we're focusing on today. And in terms of activity, I've highlighted activity. Again, I'm going to open our internal Microsoft Teams to give you an indication of what our activities are and how we use Microsoft Teams. As I mentioned before, we live inside Microsoft Teams. And as a result, there's a lot more juice in this. So which is why I want to demonstrate using ours. So back to activity. As I mentioned, when I wake up in the morning, come through to the office or open up my machine, if I want to know what's happening or what's going on, I open this application here. But before I dive in, I'd like to open again the floor for any questions through with regards to any of the tabs that I have highlighted on the far left here. If you have any questions, comments, or want to highlight anything. Great. In an instance where I always make a joke about this because in my instance, in my line of business, no news is good news. Because obviously nobody the perfect analogy I like to do is that nobody calls the police station to ask them how they're doing. So in this instance, no questions means that I'm either saying all the right things or everybody's on the same page. Sweet. Activity is pretty straightforward. If they mention you, if they say something about you in one of the groups that you are in, it brings it up in your activity. Very nice feature that Microsoft has done in terms of missing any communication or missing any messages. It basically informs you by sending you an email. But the trick is they do that, but at the same time they also do not include the entire mail or the entire message in the chat. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to open an email which I received from Microsoft Teams. It looks like this. So I'll get a notification with my name saying that your teammates are trying to get a hold of you. In this instance, a colleague of mine was trying to highlight something that had to do with clients alerts. So in this instance, my Teams was probably either closed or I was away or I was in a meeting, whatever the case may be, sent me an email. The nice thing about, again, the integration between Microsoft products, the fact that I can just from here click reply. It opens up a reply box. It responds to the message that's sitting in Teams, or I can click go to conversation. By doing that, it takes me to Teams and takes me to the exact message that's sitting in Teams, which is great. One of the features which I love, again, Microsoft has come a long way in integrating its applications, which is why my job today and in every other session is to highlight the value that they're trying to add and to also help you improve in terms of your productivity and get more value add from the products that you're using. Cool. When it comes to chats, you'll see now the nice features that the chat function has. One being we can chat to somebody directly. I see Richard has just sent me a message there. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it was highlighted in bold to state that I had not yet read that message. And in this case, I've just read it. I can either react to this message with a like, a heart, and whatever the reactions are, or I can basically click respond just off the cuff there. A lot of people want to know, in this instance, I want to chat to somebody external. In this case, there is an option to chat to somebody external. And you can simply do that by at the top right here or on the top left on this icon which says new chat. I can type in an external email address, one very important thing to highlight. One, that person either has to have a Microsoft email account, or an account, or they basically have to have an existing Skype account which links to the Microsoft profile. And in that case, you can find them. If they internally, it basically it shows nothing there but just their name. If it's an external user, it highlights the name of the user as well as there's an external word in brackets over there. That being said, it also shows you if that person's username is a Skype name or if it's a Microsoft Teams name. All right, so that basically covers in terms of chats and how to chat with people externally. Now, moving on to one of the most exciting fields for me when it comes to Microsoft Teams. And I want to show you and illustrate what I mean when I say we live inside Microsoft Teams. I swear to God, if it wasn't a situation where I had to deal with external people which are probably using different softwares or different ways in terms of communication, I would have no reason to leave Microsoft Teams. What do I mean by that? Depending on the license that you have, if I click on my Teams icon over here, I want to show you one of my favorite channels when it comes to Microsoft Teams. So in here, this is where we highlight any kudos. This is where we highlight any activities that are going on within the organization. And very importantly, which is why I keep illustrating that or keep highlighting that, feedback is food for champions. There's a field here on every Monday. We start our Mondays on a high. On every Monday, we get a score count of how many surveys we got, who they came from, and what the comments were. You'll see there's some very nice comments that came in here, and there's a consistency in terms of the guys in our service desk scoring the most surveys, primarily because of the feedback that we're getting and the support that they're getting from our teams, which is great. So as I mentioned, feedback is food for champions. Again, here's another nice survey. Last weekend or last week Friday, we had our quarterly Yay Box ceremony where we basically highlighted and shared experiences in terms of one of our culture experiences, where it was like a fruitful back and forth. Again, all that was highlighted in here. My colleague today is basically celebrating their 6th year anniversary. Things like that are highlighted in here. And in this instance, again, I can either have a reaction. I already liked this this post, or I can reply here and say, great to have you as part of our team. So one thing I want to highlight from this comment that I've made. Oh, sorry. Another thing, if the font or the image that I've shared is too small on your machine, if you click Control and then scroll up on your mouse, it will zoom in or enhance the image for the purpose of it not being too small. So in this instance, going back to this comment that I've made here, this is a general comment that has gone out to everyone that is part of this channel. But for instance, if I wanted to send this email or this notification directly to Gabriel, a nice feature is when I can select Gabriel and it auto completes it based on him being part of this group. And if I click enter, again, he will get a notification stating that he has been mentioned in this group or in this conversation. So one thing I want to highlight in terms of the different types of conversations you can start. For instance, if you wanted to have a more formal meeting going out to the team to highlight something or whatever the case may be, there's this what we call here rich text adding. So if I click new conversation and I click on this rich text format here, what that gives me is a subject where I can highlight welcome, where I can basically have a subject as well as a body, which will give a clear indication of how either serious or how much this topic or conversation I'm starting needs attention. And again, you can basically ask people to either add replies directly to you, whatever the case may be. Another nice feature about this is that you can create what you call a poll. So for instance, we would have part of our cultural rituals is the fact that we'd either have a salad Tuesday or a, a muffin Monday or whatever the case may be. What we would usually do is put up a poll in terms of do you want salads or do you want sandwiches? And depending on who or how that poll goes, you can basically get more salads or more sandwiches based on that. So those are some of the nice features when it comes to the chat and living within Microsoft Teams. That being said, everything I'm highlighting here is almost identical to how it would look on your Microsoft Teams mobile app. What do I mean by that? Again, as I highlighted, Microsoft is trying their best to ensure that you get a seamless experience. So if you had Microsoft Teams on your app, so everything that you're seeing on my screen, which is on activity, chats, teams, and all that. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so I can just try to show you on my mobile device. Everything that you're seeing on my screen. Oh yes, actually they've just highlighted a very important feature which comes with Microsoft Chat, where you can highlight a team as we can highlight a message as important or urgent. So that being said, it puts it as bold and makes it red so that whoever you're sending that message to, it can grab their attention. Going back to the Microsoft app, what you will notice again is the fact that everything that you're seeing and that I showed you on my screen is also available in the app. Because of my background, you might not see everything, but that being said, you'll notice at the very top of my screen, I can join from my mobile device, join the session from my mobile device. If I go back here, everything at the bottom of my screen, activity, chats, teams, and so forth, is also available on my device. So again, that integration, that seamless feeling of having it on your mobile, having it on your application, on your phone, that's what they're trying to drive. So that being said, are there any questions so far before I move on to its integration between SharePoint and Microsoft Teams? Again, please, on the comment section, one is yes and zero is no. All right, I'm gonna just, can the boss track where you are on the app? I'm just gonna need some more clarity in terms of the question because there's a question that came in here. Oh, in terms of location, no. In terms of location, no, they cannot track where you are. I'll give you a perfect example. I was because I'm fortunate enough that we're still working from home. I was working from the comfort of behind my screen, sitting in Durban. And in this case, they have no idea where I was. It's not to say that I was hiding my location or whatever the case may be, but it gives you an indication of the fact that you can work from anywhere and use Teams to its full potential from anywhere. But in terms of location, no, they cannot track your location. I think Poppy might have a few things to say about that. Okay, cool. Any other questions? All right. I'm going to go back and share my screen. And now what I'm going to be covering is also another exciting feature, which comes with Microsoft Teams, and it is called SharePoint. We discussed SharePoint and we spoke about it the last time during our session. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, SharePoint is what we refer to as a data repository for all data that comes in and out of your organization and can also be used as a file storage library. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that as well. So again, the nice thing when it comes to security, when it comes to anything that has to do with folders and files and teams and channels, play a very huge role in that. That being said, anything that you do not have access to, you will obviously not be able to open. What I wanted to illustrate is the fact that should you now be given access to a specific site or specific group, you can basically go to the bottom of your teams over here, click join, You can either join with a code that you would have been sent by your administrator, or you can click on create a team. And then in this case, you can create a team from scratch. But if your configuration is configured by a strict administrator, obviously you won't be able to create it from scratch. So you'll be joining from an existing group. In this case, we're looking for Microsoft Teams groups that will integrate into here. If I click on Teams groups, this user is part of the sales and marketing group. If they were part of any other groups, they'd all be highlighted in here. This is basically giving them the option to open this group, including its folders, including whatever comes with this group. So I've already added this group, and you will see it over here. Once it's in here, by default, all team sites have this general folder. This general folder is primarily designed to state, or it's primarily designed for the data repository, that for the files that are sitting within this team site. So before I dive into how and where this is sitting on SharePoint, I want to just talk a little bit about the tabs at the top. The tabs at the top give you as much flexibility as you want, but by default you get these 3 tabs, which is the posts, files, and wiki. In this case, posts highlights anything that has been posted in terms of conversations within this group. Files, if you have a specific file structure that you have designed or that is saved underneath the general channel, underneath the team, it will be located in here. Again, as I highlighted, anything that, for instance, under post, if I were to basically under new conversation, if I were to attach something, it will be sitting under data repository, which again will be in SharePoint. Don't have to worry about that, because in this case, you are living in Teams. You don't need to worry about where the data is stored. In this case, I want to talk a little bit about the actual feature, which is attach. A lot of people associate this attach to your emails, but this one is very much different, primarily because on your emails, you are limited. If you are on Office 365, you are limited to having, I think, 25 megs of attachments in your email. The nice thing about this is that there's no actual limit in terms of how much or how big you can attach, and it gives you different locations in where you can attach. I can attach a file from my machine. I can attach a file from my OneDrive. This can be either your personal OneDrive or your company OneDrive, or I can attach a file from a specific team. If you are in part of another team or part of another channel, you can attach a file from there. And again, it'll be sitting in here. So I'm going to pull back. I'm going to pull in one of our, I'm going to open up our teams again, just to give you an indication of the different types of tabs as well. If I am confusing you or anything like that, please do. Okay, I see there's 2 messages. There's 2 questions that came through there, or comments. I'm going to just go through those just now. If I am confusing you or moving too fast, raise your hand or comment in the comment section. I will address it or slow down my pace. So let's just attend to this in terms of the question. The first question that came through there is from Ngobi, asking, can anyone see messages sent privately? So in this case, it's a simple no. So unless if we sent a email, unless if we had a chat together and we added a third participant, in that case, the third participant would be able to see the conversation from where they were added. In this case, it's like your emails, it's like your, it's like your emails. In this case, nobody else has access or can see your emails aside from the person that has your email address and your password. And in this case, touching again on the first topic that we had, which was multi-factor authentication, nobody can log into your account unless they get an approval or a notification sent to your phone, or in this case, or some people who can get an SMS or a call to basically let them into your account as that extra layer of security. Okay, cool. Stembile there highlighted where we basically can make a message important or highlight Give me a second. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen so I can just go back to the other teams over here, chat. All right, so I'm just gonna share my screen again, show you again how I just opened another chat here. So my colleague, I'm gonna send an email message to myself, and I wanna show you how it looks when it arrives on my side as well. So I'm gonna say, hi, this. Okay, cool. Sorry. This is an external user, which obviously does not have that feature, which is why I had a small freaking out session there. But Ngobi is a test user which you created, which is in the same organization. But you will see there, his status currently shows that he's offline. And as a result that he's offline, again, he's going to get an email notification stating that I sent him an important email. So if he misses it in Teams, he'll get it in his email. So in this case, I'm going to send an email to, I'm going to send a message, sorry, I send a message to Ngobi saying that this is a test message. And then next to that rich text format I was telling you about is this exclamation mark here, which basically gives you an option of how you want the message to be delivered. If I click on that, it can either be a standard message or an important message or an urgent message. So as it highlights over here, message will be marked as important. And then in terms of urgent, message will be notified every 2 minutes for 20 minutes. So in this case, they'll either get a highlighted message on their Teams, or they'll get an email stating that there's an urgent message waiting for you. And as you can see, the red shows you in bold that, hey, this needs your attention. So if I click on next there, as you can see, it has a nice ringing bell over there to show its urgency. And because he's offline, he'll get an email stating that, hey, you just received an urgent message. Just have I answered your question over there? Okay, perfect. I'm getting a thank you. Perfect. All right. Going back to how Microsoft Teams integrates to SharePoint. But before that, I was showing you how I was telling you about the tabs. Sharing my screen again. And before we close off, the next session will just basically be highlighting how to create Teams messages. So in brief, if I go to my Microsoft Teams here, and I want to show you what I meant. Oh, let's minimize that. I'm looking for the other teams. There we go. I want to show you how I meant, but by the fact that we live inside Microsoft Teams. If I go, for instance, inside General, if I click on File, remember what I said in terms of not leaving or living inside Microsoft Teams. But before we get to there, just to highlight the tabs again. In these tabs here, you can add and customize them as much as you want, based on whatever you prioritize. So for the accounts team, they probably might want the accounts team front of mind, or the accounts folder front of mind. So you can basically add a tab here and highlight what you want to add, whether it's a documents library folder, whether it's an Excel sheet that you work on a daily basis, or any of these features or applications that are highlighted at the bottom here. Just a small feature I wanted to highlight. So in here, before we go to SharePoint, I just wanted to show you in terms of the integration between Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. Another nice thing is the fact that because we are living in here, if I were to click on this file, I can edit this file in real time inside Microsoft Teams. What does that mean? It speaks to the same thing that I spoke about the last time in terms of co-editing and documents that are sitting in your OneDrive and in SharePoint. For those of you that don't know what co-editing is, it basically illustrates the fact that we can work on the same exact document at the same time, and you can see who's working on that document. I'm using this document here as a test, and as you can see, it opened up Microsoft Excel inside Microsoft Teams. I did not have to have this installed on my machine, the application or installed on my machine or open on my machine. That being said, I still have the option to open and work on this inside Microsoft Teams. So on top here, what you will notice is that it gives me an option that says open in desktop app. And then in that case, it will open the Excel that's sitting on my machine. Also can copy the link to share the link to anybody who needs access to this. And I can also comment on a specific section on the document. But anyway, this just illustrates the fact that I can work on Microsoft Teams, Word, Excel, anything that you can edit, or any document that you can edit, which is a Microsoft document, inside Microsoft Teams. So jumping on to the next section, which I wanted to show you, is by default, Microsoft Teams has an option here to open this in SharePoint. Same that we had last week in terms of opening a file from your local machine that's sitting on your OneDrive and opening it in the cloud. Same thing here. If I click on here, I'm going to show you on this OneDrive here for training purposes. So if I go into here and I say open in SharePoint, it goes into the browser, signs you into your SharePoint site or SharePoint location that you wanted to open on site. And again, I'll show you how this can beautifully integrate, or like the beauty about this, it's actually mind-blowing, the integration, because now in this instance, if I don't want to work in Teams and I don't want to work online, it gives me the option to sync. So if I click sync here, so, and if I am confusing you guys, and I know I'm a bit all over the place, but I'm just showing you how amazing Microsoft has integrated all. So let me not confuse you there. But in this instance, I just wanted to highlight the fact that I can also sync this onto my machine using OneDrive. But that being said, the same folders that I was seeing in my Microsoft Teams, which are sitting in here, I can open in SharePoint online. So everything that I've spoken about now is Microsoft Teams on your machine, Microsoft Teams on your mobile device. But Microsoft has taken it a step further. You can also have Microsoft Teams on your online portal. And what you will see is that the same user experience you get from the desktop app, you get from online. The first time you open this, it will ask you whether you want to open it on the cloud or on your machine. I've proceeded to open it on the cloud for these testing purposes. But again, same experience that you get on there online, you get on your machine. You get online, you get on your machine. Perfect. So I touched a little bit on a lot of things, and I've said a lot. Are there any questions? It also shows how to schedule. Yes, Ngobi made a comment there about how to schedule meetings from your Outlook. That is the next thing we're going to be covering. So what we've highlighted now is Microsoft Teams, the features that it has, and also how you can live inside it, where you can edit your documents, Excel, and all that, as well as open it in SharePoint to access the documents or the data library. Any more questions there? All right, sweet. Okay, I'm going to move on to what a lot of people now probably do not set or use, primarily because either they receive a link or they receive an email where they just need to click to join. So I'm going to show you now how to schedule and set up a meeting from inside Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams and in your Outlook. So again, there's a number of ways you can set it up, but I'll show you the simplest two ways where you can schedule it in without having to worry about where you're going to get the link or how you're going to add people and all of that. So you do that. I'm going to start first on showing you how to do it within your calendar. So I'm going to start up Outlook over here on the screen. And what Microsoft Teams has done again, what Microsoft has done again is that it's of course have tried its best to integrate its application. So if I click on the calendar here, what you will notice is that there's an add-on over there. And that add-on is a new Teams message. So if I wanted to schedule an appointment there from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, open up a normal calendar invite as you would when you're sending it to anybody. But instead now of saying invite participants, you click on the Teams add-on. And on the Teams add-on, what you will notice is that it adds the Teams link in there, and you have more options in terms of how to join. I want to show you how ours looks like, because you can fully customize it. And I'll show you what I mean by that. For instance, I'll create a test schedule meeting. If I click on Teams over there, you'll notice that we have fully customized ours to include an image over there, makes it look nice. Again, if you want any of these features enabled, please do not hesitate to contact any of us at Solid. You can also, I'm just going to input the Solid Systems support email address in the chat there. So if you are one of our partners and you want this enabled in your organization in terms of customizing of your team, please feel free to send an email to support, and the correct representative will contact you to set this up for you. What you will notice here is that, again, it's fully customizable. We've added our Solid Systems logo over there. You can join the meeting by clicking on the link that is integrated into the invite. And for those of you that probably are traveling or whatever the case may be, I can literally join this meeting from my 3310 mobile phone. I don't have to have a smartphone to be in a Teams meeting. Obviously, now it means that I'll only be joining through an audio, but it does not limit anybody from joining that call. So from our office hygienist to our receptionist or whoever that's sitting within our organization can join the call. And in this instance, they simply dial the number, insert the code, press hash, and it's like back in the day when you had a conference call where you dial the number and they say enter your code to join the conference. You enter that code, you're in the conference. Again, in terms of finding regions, so for instance, maybe you're in the UK and you don't want to dial this number, what Microsoft Teams has done is that it's pre-populated or integrated or different numbers for different regions. So if I were to say find a local number, I click on there. It basically, for this conference, opens it on a browser. And in a browser, if I'm sitting in Australia, I just dial a local number. This is obviously for convenience in terms of wherever you are and joining as easier based on the number that you have. Cool. Are there any questions in terms of how to set up, or obviously now in this case it's a normal calendar invite where you basically give it a subject or a title, and then obviously because I'm in my organization, it can give me I can pre-populate an email address, or you can type in the email address there as well. The times are in there, click send, it's sitting in your calendar and it is sent. So I just want to send this to Solid, which is our test account in the other teams. So you'll see it's sitting in my calendar. If I double click on that, it's still there. All I need to do is click join. But in this instance, again, if I go to my Microsoft Teams, go to my calendar, one thing I highlighted again earlier on is the fact that if I open this in Microsoft Teams, all I need to do is simply just click join, and it basically grants me access to this window. So before we show, so the same concept applies in Microsoft Teams. So if you are living in Microsoft Teams, you can literally just go in here. The only difference is that you do not see the invite, or you do not see the pre-populated number and the custom things that you've done in there. You will see the body of the email, but the person that you are sending this to will receive it with the link, will receive it with the custom on all the glitz and glamour that you saw in Outlook. That being said, one thing we did not talk about is what Microsoft has done in terms of the pre-login screen or the pre-joining screen. So if I click join on here, what you will notice that it does not literally throw you into the meeting. It gives you an opportunity to, what I'd like to think, fix yourself. And by fix yourself, like check your makeup for the ladies, fix your hide your background, fix your tie if you're wearing a tie, put on a t-shirt, and just make sure that everything is neat before you join the meeting. Again, these features are fully customizable. If I click on custom here, I have an option to switch between cameras. I can choose my built-in camera. I can choose whatever. If I have more than one camera, I can pick the camera. But now what I wanted to highlight, I'll show you on my machine, because this is obviously the test account and it uses the default audio, but you can choose whether you want your speaker to be the speaker on your laptop, or if you have a surround sound system, you can connect it to that, or you can use, in this instance, I'm using my I'll actually show you. I'm using I'll show you over here. I'm just going to move it to over here. You can basically, if I go device settings, it gives you an option whether you can use the speaker that's on your machine or the speaker that's in my head, the devices that you might have. Same goes for the microphone. I can use the microphone from my camera, can use the microphone that's built into my machine, or the one in this case, I'm using the one that's on my headsets. And again, same applies for your camera over here. So another cool feature, since a lot of us are working from home, we want to hide our backgrounds in terms of, yeah, kids running around in the back, or there's laundry hanging in the back over there. Microsoft Teams where you can select your background. So I can literally go from being chilling at home in my studio to being sitting in an office in Sandton. Oh, the weather's bad there, so it's probably in Durban because I heard the weather's bad over there. Oh well, I know because I was I was there actually just now. But that being said, it's one of those features where you can basically change your background. Just give me a second there. I just lost my screen, but I'm gonna bring it back and show you those features as well in here. So in this case, yeah, in this case, I've already joined the session, but give me a sec. Let me just bring back my virtual machine over there. So yeah, and the nice thing is that you can also add your add a preferred background. Like I have right now, I have my whole team behind me, supporting me during my session. This is one of our year-end retreats. Give me a second. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so you can just see my screen there. So you can, as you can see, I've selected a custom background in the back there to basically make it a more blissful experience in terms of my team's background. All right, sweet. I'm just going to share my screen again to show you other features which you can customize, but I think that's basically it. And when you once you join the meeting, you're in the meeting. While you're still in the meeting, you still have the option to basically switch and change, whatever the case may be, and you also have the option to join without the video and without your audio. Just obviously in this instance where you're just in the session to listen and absorb information, get the much needed value that you need. So that summarizes my Microsoft Teams training. So again, I'm not going to ask the question if you guys know what Microsoft Teams is because I got all ones, but my next question is, do you feel that you can get more value out of Microsoft Teams as opposed to how you're using it now? Yes, for 1 for yes, 0 for no. Great. So again, the purpose of this whole exercise is to ensure that you get the best value out of the products that you currently and already using, paying for them. You're already paying for them because they're included inside your Microsoft packages. So when it comes to a lot of people having to worry about me coming into these sessions to sell you stuff, I'm not selling you anything because you're already paying for it and you're already using it. I'm just showing you how to use it a little bit better. We have 5 minutes left in the session. Again, it's open for any questions. It's open for any comments. And before I close off, I'd like to thank you all for joining me and taking the time out of your busy day. I know it's like it's month end into the new month. This year's gone. Let me not talk about the year. People might get emotional here, but we're getting towards the end of the year. We're going to be having our last topic, which is going to be focused on Microsoft Analytics, as well as Microsoft Delve. Just improve your. Oh, actually, um, okay, cool. You just sparked something in me that if they just have a question there from Lauren saying, if you set up a new meeting in Teams, do the participants get an email and Outlook? That is correct. So in this case, it's like a normal calendar entry or calendar invite they'd be receiving. It's just now you're doing it from in Teams. As I mentioned, you can fully live inside Microsoft Teams where you can literally chat or send out those calendar entries there. One thing that I highlighted, which is not necessarily, it is important, but is something that happens in the background, the same as how Microsoft SharePoint stores, Microsoft Teams shares its files in SharePoint, is Microsoft Stream. What am I talking about? I'm talking about this video that I'm recording right now needs to be stored somewhere. Microsoft has created a location for all videos to be stored, which is called Microsoft Stream. Again, in this instance, with Microsoft, as I mentioned, if you don't know where to find something online, I'll repeat my favorite link. You go to office.com, it redirects you to the login page, you log in. Once you log in, you get all these nice features at the bottom left here. But if you don't see what you're looking for, you can basically just type it at the top. You see, I just typed in STRE and it knows, or well, it gives me options that have to do with those keywords. I clicked on stream, and everything that I've recorded, all the sessions that I've had, all the videos that I've recorded inside Microsoft Teams. This is different to Zoom, primarily because Zoom asks you for a location where you store it locally. What this is trying to do is make sure that it keeps everything on the cloud without you having to have space on your local machine to store this video, or whatever the case may be. And you can also share out these videos directly from your Microsoft Team or Microsoft Stream site. Nice thing as well is that you can also share this out, or you can also see these videos from this Teams meeting that we're having right now. So I just want to show you how it looks like. But in essence, it looks exactly like, oh no, this is not my Teams. It looks exactly like it looks in Microsoft Stream, where it shows you the video. When you see the video, let's just find it in the chat here. Well, while that loads, well, in this case, yeah, if I scroll up in this conversation, what you will notice is that all the correspondence we've had in terms of all these engagements are sitting in here, and it's just taking a little while to load, but the videos are also sitting in here as well, and I can simply share them out from here as well. So that's Microsoft Stream, just where the videos are stored. You don't have to worry too much about it. In terms of that, I see there's one. There's a question that came in from Marius. How is the security on stream recording sessions? Will all BSC companies have access to the public session? So in this case, it is entirely dependent on your administrator. But that being said, some organizations are restricted to only share videos internally. If should you want to share them out externally, you would need to have that authorized by administrator. But in terms of security, all those videos, first and foremost, if this video was recorded in a group that you are part of, then everyone in that group will have access to that video. But if you had a one-on-one session, for instance, with someone, you'd be sitting in a situation where only you two would have access to that video. I'm hoping I'm answering your question. I know we're over time, but are there any other questions that anybody would like to ask? All right, great. That concludes our session today with regards to Microsoft Teams. Again, this video will be made available. If you have any questions, please feel free to email support@solidsystems.co.za, and your inquiries will be addressed accordingly. Thank you again, and do enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, thanks, Lebo.
Cheers.
Thank you, Putti.
Thanks, thank you so much. May you all have a good day.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Lebo. I like your background there. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
We also changed our background.
Yeah, I see you embracing the change. Hey, embracing the change.
Sure.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Lebu.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.